Okay, yes, I would like to call to order the meeting of the Employment and Compensation Committee. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Chairman, we have a couple of meetings that we need to get dispensed with. Very honestly, the reason we're holding these meetings is because the state requires us to hold annual meetings of each of our committees. And in case of the Compensation Committee, we are just meeting to satisfy that requirement, and the only thing that we're asking you to do is to approve the minutes of your last meeting. As I say, that's the only item on your agenda.
So move the approval of the minutes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So approved. I now move for adjournment of the Employment and Compensation Committee meeting.
Move to adjourn. Second.
So adjourned.
Next is the Governance Committee. Paul, I believe, are you the chairman of the Governance?
I'll call to order the Governance Committee for NIFA. Today's date, November 29th, 2016. We only have 2 items on our Governance Committee. But before I do that, we have 4 members of our Governance Committee, myself as chair, Paul Leventhal, Adam Barsky, and Howard Weitzman. Did Howard come back? Here he is walking in. We only have 2 items in the Governance Committee. One is to approve the minutes. I believe Howard will abstain anyway, so because he was not present last year. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the Governance Committee meeting, November 19th, 2015.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The second item for our Governance Committee today is readoption of the self-evaluation form for NIFA directors. In essence, this is a questionnaire of fiduciary duties, which we submit to New York State. I'd like a motion to readopt the self-evaluation form.
So moved.
Second? Howard, maybe a second?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of readopting our self-evaluation form for NIFA directors? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So that passes. A motion to adjourn and finish.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. And that concludes the Governance Committee. Thank you.
Okay, we'll call to order the regular meeting of the Nassau County Interim Finance Authority. The first order of business is to approve the minutes of the October 13th, 2016 meeting. Are there any modifications? If not, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain. I was not present.
Okay. Minutes are accepted. Second item on the agenda is for the payment of professional fees. Jerry, would you like to speak to those, please?
Very briefly, the county had come to us earlier in the year and asked us to refund certain maturing debt and take the money which we were saving and help them pay off certain pension obligations. We worked very hard with the county to try and arrange this financing, and we were very close to implementing the financing, but we were waiting for final approval from the controller of the state, who has to approve all our financings. In the last minute, the controller decided that he did not approve this financing. He didn't give us any reasons, but we assume as a cost-benefit analysis, he didn't feel that it worked. Toward the end of the process, when we were working with the county on this, we found it necessary to start hiring professionals, and this is a motion for an item so that we can pay off those professionals. I've asked for up to $25,000 to pay the professionals who began work. I think it'll be significantly less, but I'd like authority to pay those bills.
Any questions?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda.
Yes, you have for your consideration a contract with J. Anthony Enterprises for approximately $5.7 million. This is for the construction of a police department garage in the 8th precinct, which is in that page. We have a more detailed scope of services provided to you in advance. This is funded with capital funds that have been approved by the county legislature, but not by NIFA. Approval of this contract does not guarantee approval of the borrowing. Also, I believe, Jeremy, you added something to the resolution. Any actions authorized by these resolutions shall have no force or take effect until such time as the directors have approved the county's multi-year financial plan. Any questions?
Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Item number 4, contract documents. Jerry, would you like to speak about this
Yes, I
particular?
would. This is a request for an order to the county. Very briefly, we've been working with the county on labor negotiations in recent years, especially in 2014. At the time we were helping the county with their negotiations in 2014, we found it very difficult to figure out what the terms of the contracts were, because many of them, especially the PBA, were in a lot of different places and a lot of different memoranda, et cetera. So when we finished our negotiations in 14, we said to the county, we would like a single consolidated book for each union, which outlines all the terms and obligations of each union. This is something which the new members should have when they join unions, and it's something that we should have when we are helping the county to negotiate. In response to my request, we eventually got 6 binders for the PBA, and I measured the width of those today. There were 20 inches of documents in those binders, which is not what we were looking for, and I immediately told the county executive at the time that that was not what we were looking for. So I've repeatedly asked the county to bring us these documents, to give us single consolidated contracts, and I've been met with silence. So in an effort to help the county, to help new employees, and to help us with the negotiations, I'm asking you to order the county to compile these documents into single booklets for each of the unions and then turn those over to us.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. The next item for consideration is the approval for renewal of bond anticipation notes, 2016 Series D bands. Jerry would like to speak on
The
this.
county has been issuing notes to fund their sewer system in recent years. These are one-year notes which roll over. The reason they've been issuing notes as opposed to long-term debt is that they hope that they will eventually have a P3, at which point they will retire the notes. So at this point, they have a certain amount of notes outstanding, 98 million of notes outstanding. They'd like to roll those notes over, and they'd like our permission. Very honestly, when I first proposed this, or when I first wrote this, we were going to make this subject to approval of the county budget. But it appears that we will not have the information necessary to act on the county's budget until the day before these notes come due. So I'm asking you now to approve the issuance of these notes before the budget is actually adopted, so that the county can roll their notes and not default. Any questions?
Are there any questions? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda
10.
is the issue of the tax anticipation notes borrowing 2016 Series A and B, otherwise known as TANs, for 260 million plus costs. And Jerry, will you speak
Well,
on this one?
we have, in past years, approved tax anticipation notes, although they're not the sign of the healthiest county, and the county, I believe, on 1 or 2 years has actually not issued tax anticipation notes. They're normally issued to help with cash flow issues. This year, they're asking us for $260 million of tax anticipation notes. Among other things, the monies they receive from the tax anticipation notes will help them prepay certain debt obligations for their pension, and will also help them with certain operating expenses until money flows in the form of taxes. Unlike the bond anticipation notes, We're asking in this resolution that you approve the issuance of tax anticipation notes, but only after the county budget is approved by NIFA. So for argument's sake, assuming that the county acts on their budget on the 14th, you approve it on the 14th. Anytime after the 14th, they could issue these tax anticipation notes. Unlike the bond anticipation notes, which I mentioned previously, which they're now free to issue at any time. Are there any questions, please?
So Jeremy, if I understand, that would be a revision from the current, basically adding the condition that this is a conditional approval based upon the 2014.
It's actually written into the resolution that although you're approving this, it's only approved once you've approved the county's multi-year plan. The county wanted to issue these on the 15th, and we said if they gave us the necessary information for their multi-year plan in advance so that we could review it and pass it, then they could do it on the 15th. They say that they can only meet on the 14th, so we are going to try to meet on the 14th and approve their plan, and as soon as they can get these done, they're welcome to do it. Had they met earlier, they might have been able to issue the plans earlier.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution approving the tax anticipation notes upon approval of the
Mr. Chairman, some discussion. I just want to make a comment with respect to the tax anticipation notes, that the directors were informed that the county intends to prepay its pension obligation using available liquid assets that are left in the county's general fund. By prepaying the pension, they'll save approximately $1.6 million, which I think is good governance. However, should these TANs not be approved because the budget was not approved by NIFA on a timely basis, it'll be difficult for the county to operate in January, having drained all their liquid assets. So I think it's important to go on record that the county's decision to prepay its pension obligation to save them $1.6 million will put extra pressure on the county to submit an acceptable budget to NIFA to approve so that they can borrow and replenish those funds.
To elaborate slightly, in case it's not clear to
I didn't speak long enough?
the audience, no, you spoke well. As I understand it, the county's obligations for pension funds are due December 15th. They won't have time to issue the TANs before December 15th. They're going to borrow from their own operating funds to pay off that obligation on the 15th, then issue the TAN subsequently to reimburse their operating funds for the money that they borrowed. So there is a small chance that they could borrow money from their operating fund, and then for whatever reason, the TANs might not get issued. Just to clarify.
Any other questions? I think it's pretty clear. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next item is for the disapproving of the county's multi-year financial plan for fiscal 2017 through 20 and requiring that the county shall provide a modified plan by December 5th, 2016. Evan, do you want to speak on this?
Yes. I think it would be beneficial to discuss the chronology of events that have taken place since our last meeting in October, when calculated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The report discussed our risks and concerns, which totaled $217 million on a GAAP basis in 2017, and concluded that it was out of balance, and either expenditures or revenues in the proposed plan needed to be significantly adjusted before it would be acceptable to the directors. Regrettably, our analysis indicates that the adopted plan did not satisfactorily address the board's concerns. Although the adopted budget and plan contain risks that are lower than we had identified in our October report, the risks still total approximately $142 million in 2017 and between $225 and $268 million in the out years. We conclude that the plan does not chart a reliable or realistic course for effectuating long-term balance. In simple terms, GAAP balance, which the county is required to achieve in 2018, remains elusive because the county continues to outspend its available revenues. The analysis behind our findings is discussed in the new staff report, which was distributed to the directors in advance of today's meeting. In summary, the legislature approved the 2017 budget on October 31st, which included $77 million in projected revenues from new and increased fees. However, in a deviation from its normal procedures, the legislature waited until November 21st to vote on the requisite revenue-generating ordinances, which were then amended such that it left large projected deficits in the budget and plan. The deficits occurred because the legislature revised the proposed public safety fee initiative to exclude parking tickets and also lowered the fee from $105 to $55. However, the legislature did not modify the budget to accommodate this change, thereby creating a shortfall of $36 million in budgeted public safety fee revenue. The legislature asserts that the loss can be offset by $36 million in additional revenue, which it presumes the county can realize from its income and expense law amnesty program. We question the legislature's assumptions regarding the income and expense law and the associated amnesty program, especially since the law continues to be legally challenged. Even if lower courts eventually rule in the county's favor, it is likely to be appealed to the Court of Appeals, thereby hindering the county's ability to realize the needed revenue in 2017. Consequently, we recommend that the board consider requiring the county to reduce the 2017 expenditure budget by a corresponding $36 million needed to close this hole that was created. Please note that if the county accomplishes this task, then our projected risks would still total approximately $106 million, meaning it would drop from the 142 to 106, including the known $60 million gap deficit resulting from the proposed borrowing to pay tax certiorari refunds. However, despite the formidable remaining fiscal challenge, we find that if the county resubmits a modified budget that implements $36 million in verifiable gap closing measures, they would be in a better position to ensure that the 2017 gap deficit does not exceed $60 million. Furthermore, we would then be inclined to recommend that the board consider approving the modified budget. Again, if those $36 million in gap closing measures can be verified and validated. And that concludes my comments.
Yeah, just to clarify, so just for everybody's benefit, the $36 million can be achieved by either expense reductions, or they could provide revenues that we would verify as being acceptable, or some combination of the two.
Correct.
Perhaps I can discuss the resolutions very briefly, and we can discuss the issue. You have before you two resolutions. One resolution is the first resolution, which discusses the county not being able to meet a balanced financial plan and making certain findings under our act. The second resolution you should have is an order to the county to provide you with either expenditure reductions or revenue enhancements to make up the deficit that you found in the budget. Adam actually has just pointed out to me that the resolution says that the county should supply expenditure reductions. However, if they also supply us with revenue enhancements that we can verify, I think that would be satisfactory. So I'm not sure it's necessary to amend the resolution, but if you were to amend the resolution, the second paragraph of the second resolution, which says, the modified plan shall include $36 million in verified expenditure reductions, we can add on to that, or revenue enhancements for fiscal year 2017. So if someone wants to make that motion, we will change it. As again, the second paragraph will say 36 million in verified expenditure reductions or revenue enhancements. So someone want to make
I'll
that
make the
motion?
I would make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. And then
Okay.
voted on it. You can, I suppose, in theory, you should have voted on the other resolution first and then do this second. So perhaps, if you don't mind, you can vote on the first resolution, which is the resolution making findings under our act which say that the,
All right, so
might
let's,
be a
so,
plan
so,
to
be-
get there.
so,
648?
yeah, so before us is
number
resolution
648.
number 16648, and which is, as Jerry described, is the disapproving of the county's multi-year financial plan. So is there a motion to disapprove the county's multi-year financial plan?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And
Okay,
the
so-
second resolution is the order to the county to come up with $36 million. And as I say, if you now make the motion so that they should either come
So
up with
moved.
$36 million in
So moved.
expenditures or revenue. So moved. I believe that Mr.
Second.
Byrne seconded it. So will you vote on that amendment, on that amendment to the resolution? So moved.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend that.
I'll-
I'd like to amend the 36.
Further amendment. Are you, you're.
Further amending it, yeah.
Further.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the $36 million to $76 million.
Okay,
It's an
well,
increase of $40 million.
May I first suggest that you vote on the first resolution first? It's the first change acceptable, the change which adds on expenditure reductions or revenue enhancements.
I would ask that you...
First vote on that and then
I would
vote on
ask that
yours.
the amendment take precedence because the vote on the first one may be dependent on the vote on the second. So I
No,
understand what you're saying.
the first one is more of a clerical type of
It's a clarification.
modification.
It's up to the chair, but it's already been moved and seconded. I think normally we
So
would
is,
vote on it.
right, so are all in favor of the first proposed amendment?
Which talks about expenditure reductions or
Or
revenue
revenue
enhancements.
All revenue totaling 36.
All right.
And now the
Is that-
second
is that-
amendment you're proposing,
Just for clarification, we're amending 648 or 649?
amending
640.
second paragraph to
649.
Right, just the second paragraph.
Just the second paragraph. I apologize for repeating myself again. All we're doing is saying that the county has to give us $36 million of verified expenditure reductions or verified revenue enhancements. That's the amendment which has been proposed and voted on now. So that first amendment is now accepted as part of the resolution. You'd like to make another amendment.
I'd like to amend that to change the 36 million, increase the 36 million by $40 million to $76 million, correct? Which is contained in the same resolution.
Which is contained in the same paragraph of the same resolution.
Right.
So you need a second, and then if it's seconded, a vote. But first you need a second.
I'll second it.
Now that it's been seconded,
I'd like to,
we would,
I'd like to make a statement with respect to that request.
Sure.
I agree with my NIFA colleagues that it is necessary to reject the Nassau County 2017 budget tonight. The board directs the county to reduce its expenditures by $36 million, the first time NIFA has taken such an action. However, I have concluded that more cuts are necessary to plug the gaps in the budget to meet the NIFA mandated budget goals calculated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles of a maximum $60 million budget deficit in 2017 and no deficit in 2018. Therefore, I am amending that resolution to increase the required cuts by $40 million to $76 million. The NIFA staff has calculated that even after reducing its expenses by the NIFA mandated $36 million, the latest 2017 budget submission will face a projected deficit of $106 million. County officials have informed our staff that they intend to meet the NIFA mandated $60 million maximum gap deficit by not borrowing to pay $60 million for real estate tax refunds. Not borrowing to pay refunds is not the same as cutting expenses. These refunds will still have to be paid, and the county cannot afford to pay them out of operations. Nassau is once again kicking the can down the road. Unfortunately, the road has run out, and the county is at the edge of a cliff. NIFA should not give Nassau credit for deferring these refunds. I also believe that NIFA is being overly optimistic in counting $39 million in revenues from the new public safety ticket program, given the statement by various parties that they will challenge the legality of this program and the tendency of local courts to allow moving violations to be plea bargained for less expensive violations. The county has told NIFA staff that if these risks materialize during 2017, it would introduce a new tax dedicated to funding real estate tax refunds. The idea of the county executive and the county legislature voting for a huge mid-year tax increase in an election year is not credible. NIFA should require the county to make additional cuts of $40 million now to meet its 2017 budget target. If the remaining years of the multi-year plan were realistic and credible, the county's proposed optimistic budget plan might be acceptable. However, the county's finances get much worse from 2018 to 2020. NIFA staff has calculated budget risks in each of those years of over $220 million, and has concluded that the plan does not contain a reliable or realistic course for effectuating long-term balance. The county has included only $30 million in these years for real estate tax refunds, counting on the new Disputed Assessment Fund, the DAF, to significantly reduce this liability. But the DAF is certain to be challenged, and its legality will not be established for years. That creates a new $40 million annual budget hole. The county is including $20 million per year in savings from the privatization of the county's sewer assets. This scheme has yet to be shown to be feasible, and the recent increase in interest rates, which is expected to continue, has made its feasibility less likely. Nassau is also including $42 million in additional annual revenue or reduced expenses based upon actions to be requested of New York State. This is an annual exercise that predictably ends in futility. Of course, all of the risks contained in 2017 carry over to 2018 and 2020. Any reasonable analysis of the out years of the multi-year plan must conclude the county will require major revenue increases or expense reductions to bring these years into balance. Nassau County has borrowed almost $300 million from New York State since 2012 to make its full annual pension payments. New York State put this program in place to help municipalities cope with rising pension contribution caused by the Great Recession in 2008. The crisis is over, and Nassau needs to end this borrowing. The county cannot pay its real estate tax refunds without borrowing as well. Counting the over $300 million owed by the county for the utility case, its unpaid real estate tax liability is probably approaching $1 billion, which will ultimately have to be borrowed. It is for all of these reasons that I believe that the $36 million in cuts requested by the county is insufficient. Since NIFA cannot force revenue increases, the only way NIFA can require a balanced budget is through expense reductions. Reasonable expense reductions of between 2% and 3% need lead time to put into place. This amount is not overwhelming and could be offset by revenue increases. The time to begin is now. I would also like to ask Jeremy to read into the record a statement by...
I don't have the statement, to be honest.
I did send it to you. This is a statement that was offered by Chris Wright,
I'm happy to read it.
who unfortunately couldn't attend tonight.
This is a statement by Chris Wright, who is a director, and I'm reading it into the record, although Mr. Wright is not able to vote because he's not physically present at the meeting. Due to prior committed business travel, I was unable to attend this evening's meeting and will likely be unable to attend the meeting next week as well for the same reason. Had I been in attendance, I would have joined the board in its vote to reject the county's budget. The NIFA staff has done a fine job of enumerating the risks associated with the 2017 budget and the very real expenses of Nassau County when compared to some unrealistic revenue expectations, leave rejection as the only course of action for NIFA. I would not have voted for the second resolution and would have joined Howard Weitzman and any others who also joined Howard Weitzman in opposing the resolution directing the county to cut $36 million from the budget and resend to NIFA. The amount of $36 million is less than half of what NIFA should be requiring of the county in order to move the meter on reducing chronic historical and projected deficits, which will require NIFA to maintain a control period, which leaves elected officials in the position of being unable to fully exercise the authority of the offices to which they were elected. NIFA has talented and capable staff, a seasoned and experienced consultant on the bench, and ready to take the field, and the legal means by which to leverage those professionals to quickly develop a plan to require or make sufficient cuts in order to bring the budget closer to balance in 2017, thereby enabling final balance in 2018. Needless to say, the focus of those cuts would best be in departments with substantial spend and where larger dollar amounts can be achieved with smaller percentages of cutbacks and service impacts. But they can and should be made if the county's elected officials continue to be determined to attempt to spend more than the county brings in. Chris Wright. And may I just say that'll be put in the minutes of the meeting today.
Thank you. Thank
In
you.
the normal course, Adam, just to
Sure.
remind you, you would want to vote on Howard's proposed amendment, which has been seconded by Lester, depending upon how that vote turns out, or regardless of how that vote turns out, then you would vote on the entire list.
Sure, and I think other members may want to issue a statement as well.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make some comments. I had not planned on reading a specific statement into the record. However, I respect my fellow directors' opinions and reports and opinions on what we're discussing right now, namely Chris Wright and Howard Weitzman. However, I strongly disagree on many of the assertions that are being made. I think it's important to note the progress that the county has made, and that when you're talking about large numbers in the hundreds of millions of dollars, a county like Nassau cannot handle that in 1 year. Just to give some perspective, in 2014, Nassau County came in with a gap deficit of roughly $219 million. In 2015, that gap deficit dropped to about $105 million. I'm confident, as many of our staff are as well, that this year we likely will come in the vicinity of less than $80 million. NIFA has put a plan together that the county should and ought not have a gap deficit of more than $60 million next year, namely borrowing $60 million to satisfy some cert judgments. Changing gears to our report on risks. When Evan does his analysis, which is quite detailed and just excellent work, we take a very close look at it, and then I think it's important for the public to understand what those risks are. When he talks about $142 million of risks in a budget next year, that doesn't mean necessarily that the county's spending $142 million and they're bringing in. We're just simply saying that if certain things don't pan out the way we all want them to, there'll be a $142 million gap deficit. So it's important to put that $142 million into one of two buckets. There's a legislative risk. Will these things happen legislatively? And then there's another bucket of risks that I simply put in a difference of opinion. You know, it's hard to guess exactly what the sales taxes are going to be. And there's other things that are difference of opinion. So we come up and we analyze it, and we say 142 million, and we look at those two buckets and we say, we have a difference of opinion on 36 million that we just cannot, under the best of circumstances, get our hands around and absorb. And that's what we're talking about right now. So if you have 142 million of total risks, and we say to the county, there's 36 million that you cannot convince us are going to materialize, that puts us at 106 million of risks. That doesn't mean the county has a gap deficit of 106 million next year. It means there's 106 million of risks. 60 million of it we are willingly accepting. We are saying it's okay to borrow 60 million to satisfy some judgments. That gets us down to $42 million. So we are talking about $42 million on roughly a $3 billion budget that may very well happen or not happen because there's some differences of opinion. So the way that my colleagues presented this are not as dire as they are, in my opinion. The county, over the last 4 years, has moved from a $219 million gap deficit, and in my opinion, we may very well be under 60 million next year. Those are my comments. I'm in favor of ordering the county to come up with realistic revenue and possible cuts totaling 36 million, and I'm not in support of the revision to make it more than that. Thank you.
And the only thing I would add is that I think, first of all, I want to thank Howard for his comments. I think we all agree that the county's fiscal situation is severe and needs to be addressed, and this has been, there have been structural problems in the county now for 16 years since NIFE has been in existence, And I think the goal and the mandate of NYFA has been to guide the county back towards fiscal independence without requiring NYFA to be in place. And we have a multi-year plan that we're trying to implement to get them to that place. And we're seeing some progress, as Paul has mentioned, in terms of getting the deficits down incrementally each year, reducing the budget risks that are identified each year with each budget, and not accepting budgets that we don't feel have realistic revenue assumptions in them, which is the genesis of the resolution disapproving the plan, because based on staff's analysis and recommendation, we were set to approve the plan that was presented to the legislature before they made the modification and replaced the revenues that we thought were reasonable with revenues that we thought were unacceptable. And what we communicated back to the county, both to the, I spoke to both the head of the county legislature as well as the county executive, that this would not be acceptable and they're going to have to fix the $36 million problem they just created. I think we all agree we'd like to see more revenues and more expenses, but where we are in the, I think in the budgetary process, I think we need to implement what we have before us and monitor very closely the risks that both Evan has identified and Howard has also identified as well. And if we see any of those to materialize, we will then require further actions being taken. And I think this will allow the county to progress smoothly into budget adoption and the sending out of tax bills and borrowing of money that they need to do to function effectively without creating undue chaos. But I think this is a proper move that we're making, and I think this is one step in a multi-step process of getting them back to fiscal independence. Anybody else? Paul?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with your comments.
And I'd just like to compliment Paul on a very good historical perspective on our progress here, and I think we're taking the right approach.
Are there any in favor of the amendment that is before us? I see one. Any opposed?
Opposed? Opposed?
Opposed?
The,
It's four, I see four opposed, and Lester, are you abstaining, or are you voting?
All opposed.
You're opposed. Okay, so the amendment is defeated, and now in the normal process, you would vote on.
There was a second amendment?
You voted on
For
the first
the
amendment
revenue
already. This
enhancement.
was the second amendment. You've now voted down the second amendment. It's now appropriate to vote, unless
The
there's
revenue-
another amendment on the entire resolution.
That was approved already. Okay. Thank you.
I know
Paul was referring to the amendment to the 36 million being a combination of
Right,
the
you
revenue.
had-
That was already approved.
That was already
My
approved.
understanding that you had
Okay.
already moved that, voted on it, and passed that, and that this was a second amendment, which has now been defeated. So now, in the normal course, unless there are other amendments, if there's a motion made, you would vote on the entire resolution requiring them to come up with the $36 million. So it would be the resolution as amended.
So I'll make a motion that 16-649 resolution as amended to include the revenue or revenue enhancements wording. Make a motion and put that forward.
I second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One. I think the motion carries. If there's any, unless there's any further business or any other comments, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.